Welcome back to KTN News. I want us to cruise over live to Makueni County, where we are having the Climate Action Forum happening. I hand you over to my colleague Dennis Aseto.
To the citizens that we must do. In a minute, sir.
Thank you. I hope I can be heard. Thank you. Climate change, climate action is no longer Machakos, Makueni, Kitui, because it is cross-cutting. The issues that are in Kajiado affect us. If we degraded Chulu Hills, Mombasa will not have water, because the water they consume comes from Chulu Hills, which is in Makueni. So when we pollute water in Nairobi, it affects everybody downstream. This is a conversation that must be cross-cutting. And the national government must make this an agenda that is tied to clean water, that is tied to food security, that is tied to protecting the environment, that is tied to not cutting trees, is tied to not lifting the ban on logging, that sort of thing. So that you have a wholesome approach to climate change and climate action, so that then we can understand that for purposes of a country like Kenya, where we were told that the backbone of our economy is agriculture, agriculture has gone to the doldrums. We are a net importer of everything. And therefore, if Kenya is going to be secure, and the country is going to be secure, one of the things that we must do is ensure that these matters are addressed. Lastly,
briefly,
the problems you saw concerning water have something to do with security. Up in the north, people are fighting over pasture. You saw the war that was between Garissa and Kitui. You've seen the war between Samburu, West Pokot, and others. All these things, including the elephants from Titwande who come late in the evening to come and see the people of Titwande looking for water. Those issues must be addressed if people are then going to be secure and people are going to live peacefully. Thank you.
Ndondo, kindly, solutions, briefly.
Thank you so much. And the solution to this is the mindset that we must all have. It's not an issue of only the policymakers or the donors or the partners. Ask yourself, what am I actually doing about it? The little things, like using clean energy. We should have jikos that use kidogo fuel. You know, you're not using so much firewood. So it breaks down to our own initiative, not waiting for the government. And also, there is also, the Bible is very clear. It says, train up a child in the way they shall go. And you know what? When they grow up, they will not divert from what you've taught them. So let's have a conversation with the children, as young as they are. They're not too young to understand that there's something that is already happening. So let's have everybody put on the table, no matter how old or how young or whatever the office is, and let's have this conversation and have it practically. Thank you.
Philip.
I think the first is to believe in the politics of bottom up. Not in the typical sense of how it's used politically, but how are you building pressure for climate action from below for locally led climate action. That should be clear in that particular context. And if we are able then to do that, then how are we coalescing our government entities, decentralized government entities, as a fulcrum of sort of leveraging power? Because as it is, local governments across Africa have not punched as per their weight in terms of really demanding space within within what should be done. Finally, we must begin to see how climate finance is going to work for us. Not loans. We are funded under FLOCA on loans. We must get that clearly. That we are not going to be on loans, and we must begin to pass the baton to the young generation. Nairobi Summer School for Climate Justice trains activists from across Africa to pursue that.
Now, Reverend, briefly, what message are we sending to the flock out there on matters to do with climate change?
Yes, one of the things we are sending out is that we have to work as a team, regardless of the professionalism or educational background. We have to work, and we have to discuss these issues at different levels. Whenever we discuss issues, we come up with thoughts that can take us to a higher level. And the other thing is that the fashion designer was asking how this information will get to the community and to the other people. There's a phrase in Kiswahili, which I'm hearing nowadays, that mwanaume ni kujituma. So I would say every development actor ni kujituma, and to go and pass the information.
Let me go to Peter Nzioka briefly. Now, for you, now what's the solution in a minute, sir?
I think number one is that you should know that soil is a limited resource. Number two, you should know it takes 100 years to develop 30 centimeters of topsoil.
And finally?
So we need to be practical in whatever measures we are going to take against climate change crisis.
And I'll come to you, Aziri, briefly. What are the solutions to the people of Wote and the larger eastern region, because we're in this region?
Okay, I will not sleep in peace if I don't mention about tree planting. So one of the solutions is climate change is here to stay. We have to, and it found us vulnerable. Let's protect what we have. All this blame game, who started climate change, who is doing what, it will not help us. Complaining. Let's start the action. The action starts with us. Let's start restoring our farms. Let's adopt the new technologies. It is no longer business as usual. You can't plant what you used to plant when it has changed. You can't cut all the trees and expect a new change. We have to plant trees. We have to adopt the new farming technologies. And we have to have good partnerships.
And finally, I come to the director and principal, Wote Technical Training Institute. Sir, you are dealing with green energy in these institutions. Just tell us how that is a solution to climate change within the institution and how that is helping the locals here.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. I think as a TVET institution, our mandate is to train young men and women to acquire skills which will help them in future or in their old age. But in between, as they grow up, they need to actualize and they need to appreciate the environment. So we are trying to ensure that they do that by bringing on board programs like solar energy or wind energy training at a reduced cost. You know, some of those programs have reduced costs compared to other programs. We're also ensuring that, encouraging that when it comes to cooking in our kitchen and in our training restaurants, we use...
Right, so that is my colleague Dennis Asseto.